Okay, so I was just thinking that actually, before I go into the decryption thing, it's probably better we maybe start breaking stuff into functions and make it into a nicer program. Now, functions are like set sections of code that we can run whenever we call on them. It's probably easier to see than to listen to me. But basically, every time I say do this, it's going to run the same amount of code again. So I want to start trying to take this encryption function, encryption code, and make it into a function. Now let's start by cleaning things up. So I can get rid of all my comments that I don't actually need. I can get rid of these extra variables that I also no longer need, unless you've kept it as the original way. And functions usually go at the top, so normally we'll have our imports, like import random, which we are going to actually use. And then we're going to have our functions after that. And then at the bottom, we're going to have our main code. Now that's going to change slightly when we do classes later, but just for now, that works. So the libraries, the chunks of code I want to be able to run my function, I'm going to call encrypt. Okay, so I'm going to write that. Now, what do I need from that? Well, I'm not going to do the input because I want to deal with that later. I want to possibly be able to load from a file and stuff, so it doesn't make sense to have that inside the actual function. Basically, I want this to be my function. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put inside of there and do it like this. Now, inside these brackets go the parameters. And these are the things that I want to give this mini program. So really, when you're thinking of anything up here, this should be self-contained as much as possible. I shouldn't be using anything from in here unless I give it to it. So the two things that it needs to work are plain text and the key. Okay, so let's give it those two things. So we're going to give it plain text, and we're going to give it the key. So those two things are coming into this mini program here. Now, I don't want, okay, so how could I then call that? How could I then use that? So if I wanted to encrypt something, I could now say encrypt bracket, and I'm going to give it the plain text, and I'm going to give it the key. My power just turned off, so hopefully I'll be able to keep going. Yes, anyway, the joys of living in the pot. So the backup generator should work for a little bit, but maybe not too long. Let's hope things go okay. So I'm going to save that, I'm going to run it, and I should get the same thing as I had before. Oops. No, I forgot. When I copied it, I didn't indent it properly. That's bad. So I want to indent that into my for loop. Okay, so I want to do ABC. No, something's gone wrong. So what's gone wrong? Cannot access local variable cipher where it's not associated with a value. Okay, so at the start here, I can get rid of this bit here actually because I don't need that at the moment. I'm not going to go into global and local variables, but basically, like I said, this is a self-contained program, and here I've said cipher. So inside there, I also have to have another cipher that's going to start as empty to begin with. Okay, now let's see. ABC. Sorry, you can't see that. That's terrible. I always make my thing bigger so the kids can see it on this big screen, but it doesn't work very well when you're presenting on a video. Okay, cool. So here, the code starts here, not here. And that's the really important thing to get with functions. So whenever I run it, it's creating the key, it's creating the plain text. Then I say enter the text to encrypt. And then when I say encrypt plain text with the key, it's going to then run this piece of code here. All right, so that's slightly different. So what I'd probably want to bring in here is maybe some other functionality. Okay, so let's say I wanted to bring in my key generator, def key gen. Now, with the keygen, do I need anything coming into it? I don't think so. So let's go back to my keygen code. So I'm going to take that and just put it in here. Now, again, my spacing's not gone great here. So I should be able to do it like that. Now, I've got prints and stuff in here, which is not great, but it should be okay. So I'm going to make the alphabet. Now, that itself could be its own function, to be fair. But, okay, for now, let's just have that in there for now. Okay, so I'm going to regenerate the alphabet every time. Not good. There's no point in doing that. I only really need to do that once. Yeah, so, but fine. Okay, so I'm going to regenerate the alphabet. Now, I don't need to print it, so I can get rid of that. And then I'm going to shuffle it. And then I'm going to print it out again. Okay, now notice that that's not going to change the actual key that is set in my system. Okay, so what I maybe want to do is change this key down here. So there's different ways I can do this. I'm not a big fan of global variables, but what we can say up here is we could say global key. And that means use the key from the main code. And then once I've generated it, I'm going to say key equals alphabet. So now, the new key for my system is going to be the alphabet. Not the alphabet, sorry, the shuffled alphabet that I've just done here. Okay, so I'm no longer going to be using that as the key. I'm going to be able to change my key as I go along. So, then let's go back to the main. Now, I can leave that in there now, my default key. I can leave my plain text in. So, but I don't want to do this right away. I want to give a menu. So let's make a menu. So def menu. And I'm going to say print, or maybe input, answer equals input. And say what would you like to do? Now, at present, my menu of options is going to be let's say menu of options is going to be make a new key. It's going to be encrypt. Now later I'm going to have decrypt, so I might as well stick that in there. Decrypt. I'm also going to have options for loading files and stuff.